Sorry. Fork.
Amy.
I don't know, my name's not Fork.
Yeah, I guessed. It's just...
Oh, it's Frank. Do you want to sit? Should we sit?
I think it's that'll stand. Yeah, come.
Come sit, yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm Lucy.
And I'm Oscar.
And we've just watched the Black Mirror Season 4 episode, Hang the DJ. We're here to break it down and go over all the Easter eggs for you.
But before we get going, hit that subscribe button. We're going to be breaking down every episode of Season 4 of Black Mirror, as well as doing some theories, some Easter egg breakdowns, and loads more.
Yes, so make sure you subscribe, but let's get going on Hang the DJ. If you haven't seen the episode, turn away now, because obviously there's going to be a ton of spoilers. So Hang the DJ is clearly the Tinder episode of Black Mirror. It features an app that you use to find your perfect match. And overall, it's a very positive episode of Black Mirror, which is surprising, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I find it really uplifting, which is rare for an episode of Black Mirror, and I think that's why I liked it so much.
Yeah.
Is that, like, I was sat here watching all of Season 4 of Black Mirror almost back to back, and I was getting really quite sad, and then
Especially
I watched...
with Crocodile.
Yeah, oh my god, that fucked me up in ways you wouldn't believe. And Hang the DJ is nice, and
Yeah.
I came away from it and I was just happy, and that's a really rare thing for Black Mirror.
Yeah, and so the whole episode, there is a system called Coach, Tinder, that basically sets you up with partners. You don't have to look for anyone, you don't have to go out and do dating the traditional way. Coach finds you your partner, gives you an allotted time together, so that can range from hours to years, and it just sort of sets up these relationships for you until you find your perfect match. And it centers around these two characters called Frank and Amy, who, despite their first date going well,
they don't sleep together.
They don't sleep together.
Even though they're only matched together for a short period of time, but they decide not to. But they each say, you would get it next time, which I thought was a nice touch.
If we had this time again, you would totally get it, by the way. Sorry.
But yeah, everything's predetermined, right?
Yes.
It's like Tinder times a million, is to the nth degree.
Tinder with no free will, basically.
That's a dark way of looking at it.
There's no swiping left here. Everything is swipe right.
So after their night together, they get matched with a number of other partners, but neither of them are especially happy because their partners are consistently weird or annoying, like the bloke who goes,
Yeah.
He was hot though, that guy.
I mean, he was fit, but I would not go near him personally.
That would grate.
It definitely would.
Yeah.
And then they eventually get rematched together, but this time for 5 years.
Yes.
But Frank, as humans do, goes and fucks it all up by looking at how long they've got left without Amy looking at the same time.
Recalibrating.
So in typical Black Mirror fare, there's a piece of technology that's meant to enrich humans' lives, except humans always use it wrong. And that's the case in this episode. But in this episode, it's, no one dies. So that's
all right then.
So that's fine. It's just kind of like the self-sabotaging thing where Frank and Amy have both decided that they don't want to look. They just want to enjoy the time they have together. And then Frank, whether it's curiosity or just, he needs to know.
He can't resist, can he?
He can't resist, so he checks it. And the way that the system reacts is because they have such a difference in opinion on whether or not to look at their expiry date. It goes from 5 years to hours.
Yeah,
and he's
cycles
completely ruined it, completely biffed it. So then, they're separated again, after a furious row, which is very sad. And they're in that weird, so they kind of live in this weird compound.
Yeah, it's a really odd world, isn't it? Where there's no one has a job, no one seems to have friends.
Yeah.
Everyone just seems to live in this world where they're constantly dating and doing weird, fun day trips, like going for walks and going to the shopping
Skipping
centre.
stones.
Yeah, skipping a lot of stones in this episode. And that's all anyone ever does. It's a weird clinical world.
Yeah, I think the skipping stones thing is obviously because you're basically skipping from one relationship to another without any kind of
That's
break.
a good point. I've not thought about that. Good analysis, Lucy.
Good analogy as well. But yeah, so both of them managed to get their perfect match. The system has finally, after all these relationships, it has figured out who is the perfect match for them. But they're allowed to see one of their previous partners for an hour.
That's right.
The night before.
They, of course, choose each other because they are each other's perfect match, right? But they don't know that.
Yeah, they also don't know who their perfect match is. So
Yeah.
they pick each other and they decide that enough of this. they're gonna escape from this weird compound. You know, like there are those security guards who like try and tase them.
Yeah, I really
just,
liked that. I really
yeah.
liked that. The fact that they were just completely fake as well, like how that was just a deterrent. Like the taser just did nothing as soon as they decided to rebel. And then they escape, and then it turns out it was all a dream.
It was all a simulation. So basically, the system promises to find a 99.8% match, and it says that it's run 1,000 simulations, and 998 times they have escaped the compound together.
That's right.
Okay, let's break down everything we noticed in Hang the DJ.
So the first thing I noticed was that there's actually loads of hints that this isn't a real world, that this is a simulation, because we only ever see them when they're in a relationship, really, apart from brief moments here and there, and no one has a job, and we never see people going out with friends or anything. They're only ever in couples. And then there's the stone skipping thing that you noticed, right?
Yeah, so we use that as an analogy for going between one relationship to another very quickly, but it also could be that whenever they skip a stone, it's always in fours, and it could be because it's a simulation, they just didn't program the physics in, so that's why the stone skipping is always 4.
Coach,
Yes, Amy.
count to 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So one line that stood out to me was, can you remember where you were before you came here? Like, it's interesting that they have no recollection of any world other than this weird utopia that they find themselves in. And you said it raises similar questions to Callister, right?
Yeah, not only USS Callister, which is like an online clone of yourself. We've broken that episode down. You should definitely go watch it on Games Universe. But I mean, in White Christmas, you know, when you put your consciousness into a cookie, do you exist? Are you sentient? Do you have feelings and emotions? It's one of those existential questions that Black Mirror just casually throws out onto the table there.
And then one thing that I thought about it as well was that it's kind of similar to, like, when you're in a relationship, it's really hard to remember what it was like when you were single, right? And when you're single, it's really hard to remember what it was like when you were last in a relationship. And I thought it was interesting how I felt like this whole world was like an analogy or a metaphor for that.
Shout out to not only Lenny for having the weirdest the whole time, but also Frank's second relationship with that girl.
My God, she was not a nice person.
She was over it before it even began.
1 year. We've got each other for 1 year. Could be a mistake. Yeah, Coach, is this a mistake?
This is not a mistake.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And obviously the episode is called Hang the DJ, which is the chorus of the song Panic by the Smiths. And at the end of the episode, when Frank and Amy meet in real life, that is the song that you can hear playing. But also interestingly, so for season 3 episode San Junipero, Charlie Brooker released like a Spotify playlist of songs that inspired San Junipero and songs that he felt would fit but didn't make the final episode for rights/other reasons. And Panic was on that playlist, so I was wondering if it might be a kind of leitmotif that he uses for his positive love episodes. Kind of like how in other episodes, Anyone Who Knows What Love Is Will Understand by Irma Thomas is used quite a lot in Black Mirror, which I found quite interesting. So what was your favourite bit, Oscar?
My favourite moment of this episode was right at the very end, after the simulations have been run and they see each other in the real world, in the bar again, and my heart warmed at that moment. It was so lovely, and I was like, yes, this is nice. I can go to bed a happy man tonight. What about you?
My favourite moment, because it made me do an Edna Krabappel laugh out loud in the middle of the office, was but in the sexual context. That made me, like, just caught me completely off guard, and I thought it was so funny. And it was just that, and like, I thought this episode was really funny as well. Like, Frank and Amy were cute, but not to the point of being unbearable.
Yeah.
And there were lots of little jokes everywhere, and I just really enjoyed that part of the episode.
It was nice. So, Lucy, do you have any final thoughts on Hang the DJ?
I really like the episode, and I have a lot more questions about how you actually get into the simulation. It doesn't seem to be like in White Christmas where they actually have to inject you with anything, or like Archangel, for example. There doesn't seem to be any kind of
mechanism
right? Or
like they've got the coach thing in the simulation, but in the real world there's no sign of it, right?
Yeah, it's just an app on your phone. So that kind of says to me that this episode might take place way further in the future than some of the other ones, because it doesn't need to have that link which I find really interesting. And also, of course, existential questions about whether your virtual self has a soul.
Yeah, and also the 99.8% thing was already showing in the simulation before all the simulations had been run, right? So like, is there a simulation within the simulation within the simulation?
How deep does this go? But overall, we both really enjoyed this episode.
Definitely.
And make sure you subscribe to Games What You Know Us because we're going to be breaking down every episode from season 4. Believe us, you will not want to miss our breakdown of Crocodile or Black Museum because there was so much going on in those episodes. And of course, we're going to have some theories about how all of Black Mirror links together because season 4 has planted some seeds. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at LucyJamesGames.
I'm at DSZ.
We'll see you next time.